While the general gaming world can seem a bit stale at times, unless you're into Souls games like the Elden Ring DLC that just came out, or JRPGs like Persona 3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and even older titles like Kingdom Hearts being brought on Steam a while back, the same isn't true when it comes to gacha gaming. With Honkai Star Rail's 2.0 anniversary, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero all launching within the past few months, there's not a shortage of things to do in the gacha gaming space, whether you prefer a more turn-based game or something more action-focused. Whether you want to explore a vibrant world or just collect waifus, hey, I'm not judging, I do the same. Your interests these days, there's something for you out there. While I think it's a good thing to have options and that competition breeds innovation, is there such a thing as too much? Hello, I'm Ayasuda and I make videos, more specifically art videos, but today I want to talk about something that's going on in the gacha gaming sphere, because ultimately it's one of the main inspirations for my own art style and character design. You know, minus the whole colorism debacle that I previously talked about, the idea of being transported to a world like Breath of the Wild or Persona from your smartphone was something that never really was tested before. The excitement of getting new characters every patch, as well as how you want to use your shiny new unit with the rest of your group. That or you just really like the particular assets of a character. I don't believe you, even as an ace person myself, I still enjoy some fan service every now and then. At the beginning of the year, I was excited for any news relating to Zenless Zone Zero or Wuthering Waves. I liked the character designs as well as the worlds that these games were set in. I had already quit Genshin Impact at that point, so I was kind of looking forward to an open-world action-focused combat system, because even as a turn-based fan myself, I do still like some variety in my games. While WoW's launch was rocky to say the least, I was actually pretty satisfied for at least the first few weeks. The story had its ups and downs, but the exploration was still quite fun, and I found that the combat was actually pretty satisfying. The same was mostly true for Zenless Zone Zero, and while the TVs are an area of contention, I actually like the more casual pace in the game, at least compared to other Hoyoverse games. Of course, both WUA and Zenless Zone Zero will have a bunch of problems at launch. Most games usually do. I know that these issues will likely be fixed in later patches, so I go in these games with an open mind. Both games have been out for a little bit now, and I'm actually kinda burnt out already. It's not like these games are bad or anything, or that there's nothing to do. It's not you, it's me. Or is it? During 2020, of course, we had COVID-19, and obviously Hoyoverse capitalized on the fact that many of us were stuck at home with nothing to do and therefore spent more time on our phones/computers. So what better thing to do than to release a game when the large chunk of the world was pretty much stuck? Now, I'm not saying that Hoyoverse caused COVID. I'm not some conspiracy theorist here, but let's be real. If COVID never happened in Genshin Impact, and by a lesser extent Honkai Star Rail, likely wouldn't be as popular as they are now. With Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, hype was raised for weeks regarding new patches and events. HR Star seemed to have a new trailer coming out pretty much every week. Regardless, in the early days of both games, excitement was at a fever pitch. While there was some initial excitement for ZZZ and WUA, it definitely died down in a lot quicker rate than the previous two games. Now, someone smarter than me can do the math and they'll crunch the numbers on engagement, but one can't deny the player base for all four games has recently shrunk quite a lot. Now, of course, that's natural. Things come and go, trends start and stop. Humans are pretty fickle. One day they like something, the next they can't stand it. None of that is new when it comes to video games. It's no secret that the gaming industry, for lack of a better word, is crowded, and every company is trying to be at the top. All of the big companies are in it for profit. Yes, even Hoyoverse. Don't try to deny it, you know it's true. Don't listen to anyone saying otherwise. Lots of people are rightfully upset with microtransactions in games that have already been paid for, as well as the advent of loot boxes, and I guess that also applies to Gacha. I mean, yeah, gacha games are technically free, but to get the most out of games like this, you likely need to spend many hours grinding resources, and you better not let your energy overcap. Otherwise, you're just being inefficient. The only other way to combat this problem is, of course, to spend money. Obviously, this can turn out to be quite a hassle. Genshin Impact is probably the worst out of the big four that I'm talking about today. They don't really reward players for time spent in the game, and you can only farm mats for certain characters on certain days, which obviously is more hassle than fun. CCZ doesn't seem to be doing much better when it comes to time spent in the game versus rewards, but WUA and HSR are at least a bit better in that regard. Obviously, it can be both time-consuming or costly to get the max rewards in one game. Now multiply that by 2 or 3, and playing something that's supposed to be casual has now become a part-time job. Cost-sunk fallacy is a hell of a drug, and while I'm sure a lot of players are still having fun with these games, and of course there's nothing wrong with that, a lot of players are probably feeling stuck, or at least obligated to do their dailies every day, likely because they spent a lot of time or money for their accounts. I know this to be the case because this was what I was going through, and for a longer time than I wanted to admit. Like, it's an established fact at this point that our smartphones are ruining our attention span. There are numerous studies to back that up, but I feel these games take it a step further. I think a lot of people aren't necessarily playing for fun, they are playing to combat fear of missing out. If you can't keep a player base because your game is legitimately fun, then is it really a good game? I think all the first few patches of a new gacha game are quite fun. You're exploring a new world, you're trying new characters, trying to see how far you can take your new characters is also pretty fun, but eventually you will hit a wall. And by wall, I mean that there's not really any new content to do, you leveled up all your characters and did all your farming, and you're pretty much stuck, waiting for the whole 6 to 7 weeks to pass until you get another patch for the game. And you better hope that there's a new region or a new boss or something, because even if you don't want the characters, then that's another 6 or 7 weeks you have to wait till the other patch comes out. At that point, the game stops being fun, and it really just feels like a chore every day. I particularly ran into this problem while playing Honkai Star Rail, which is my favorite Hoyoverse game. I was excited when Penacony came out, but by the time that I finished the story, I realized I had to wait a whole month and a half before I could continue on, and I felt like I was stuck because I wasn't exactly pulling for new units. I didn't have anyone that I wanted to build, and there really wasn't much for me to do outside of dailies. And it's not like I don't like turn-based games. Persona is probably one of my most favorite games, along with Final Fantasy, of course. But something about it just felt off, and I guess I just lost enjoyment for the game. For a while, Honkai Star Rail was my only gacha game. I stopped playing Genshin like I said earlier, so maybe I was just stuck with that type of combat. I was waiting to see what WUA would do. I played the game for a few weeks like I said, but again the same thing happened. I cleared the world, I did the story, I had to wait weeks to do the next part. The same goes for Zenless Zone Zero as well. It had nothing to do with the story or the characters. I thought both games were pretty fun. I liked the combat in each game, they all had their quirks and downsides, but it was fun to see what worked and what didn't. I have nothing against experimenting with different playstyles as long as the story is engaging. But game after game, I ran into the same problem of feeling bored and like there was nothing really to do in these games, and I didn't exactly want to wait weeks for more content, just to run into the same problem. Now I realize that the issue could just be me and that these games just don't appeal to me anymore. But I know some people that are actually gacha fanatics that play 4 or 5 or more gacha games, and they too ran into the same burnout issue. It didn't matter what world or what characters or even what gameplay that these games had, we all ran into the same problem of feeling bored, and eventually dropping these games. Now back in 2020, if you wanted to play a 3D gacha game, there weren't really many options. There was Honkai Impact 3rd, which I think is pretty fun, but again it had a smaller fan base, and nothing could really hold a candle to Genshin Impact. But now there are many more options with different playstyles, so what gives? There's more options these days, but the same burnout happens no matter what game that I play. These games could have better rewards and player feedback, but again, the same burnout happens. I mean, gacha games are all fundamentally the same. It's literally just a legal form of gambling that literally anyone of any age can do. It doesn't matter how often you change the gameplay, the recipe is the same. You have attractive characters, you gamble for them, you spend all your time building resources for them, and yeah, you have to wait 4 or 5 weeks or more to get another set of characters to gamble on. And if you know the risk, then of course there's nothing wrong with that. But there are a lot of people, of course, that don't know when to stop, and it actually ruins their lives, just like a normal gambling addiction. While I'm no scientist myself, I can't imagine playing these games, at least multiple forms of them, is particularly good for your brain, because each time you lose your 50-50, your dopamine receptors just go haywire, and you can't exactly always afford to get the character that you want in these games, and that can actually affect your whole mood. The whole reason that I brought the whole smartphone thing up is because the similar thing happens when you spend a lot of time on social media. It helps your brain create dopamine, and you constantly crave another hit of it every time you scroll through your YouTube feed or TikTok feed or really any social media platform. I felt less productive when I played gacha games. I would actually put off projects that I really wanted to work on just so that I could play my dailies every day and be a good little worker bee to keep these corporations happy. But when I started to feel burnt out, I was wondering to myself, why was I even doing this? I served no benefit to play a game that I just didn't find fun anymore. It felt like a chore, not something that I would do because I actually liked it. And since then, I've been on a bit of a gacha purge lately. I haven't really played any gacha games at all for the past 3 weeks or so. Ever since then, I felt a lot more productive in my life outside of work. I'm able to work on projects that I do feel passionate about. I don't feel like I'm putting them off anymore. Obviously, I created my VTuber model after months of me saying that I was going to create one. Yeah, I know it took me a while and I'm still working things out. But yeah, I'm able to focus on things that I do find important. And of course, that made me a much happier person. Thanks to another friend of mine, I've been getting into independent games recently, and they recently introduced me to the game called Nine Souls. It's pretty much like Hollow Knight, although there's more elements of Souls games here. And I've really been having a blast with that game, so if you are the person that suggested me that, you know who you are, and I actually greatly thank you for breaking me from my gacha curse. If you've been listening to me ramble for this long, you might as well drop a like as well as a subscribe, because I make a video like this pretty much every week, which I've been able to do more consistently since I've stopped playing gacha games. Also, if you have a different take compared to mine, then don't hesitate to leave a comment down below explaining why you still enjoy gacha games and why you think that they aren't a complete waste of time. There's nothing wrong with that. I definitely think you should play what you like. I'm just telling you from my perspective and other perspectives of people that I'm close to. I guess the whole point of this video here was just to talk about the larger problem of internet addiction. Gacha games and social media are two sides of the same coin. These companies want our attention constantly to advertise a message, or it's just a specific product. And of course, I'm not exactly doing anything different by talking on social media, of course, but I don't know. Ever since I started to make longer form videos, I feel like my concentration has been a lot better recently. These games also make me realize how much time I wasted. I likely would have started my YouTube channel sooner if I weren't distracted by these games. It really did a number on my attention span. I'm really trying to break out of that habit of mine. Bottom line, I think the whole issue of instant gratification is something that we all deal with. Whether we deal with it on the social media or playing these games, I think it's something that we need to really talk about in relation to these larger corporations. Because if we leave it in their hands, the problem just gets worse and people's mentals just continue to deteriorate. Now, I'm not trying to scold people who do play gacha games. I was there once. There's nothing wrong with playing them, like I said, just have moderation. If you feel like they're taking over your life, then maybe it is the time to take a step back. No game, of course, is worth hurting your mental or your financial situation, and if you truly feel that, then you do need to consider getting help. whether it's from someone you know or from some hotline. Again, I'm no expert here, but obviously I know the pain of addiction, even though it takes other forms. This is a bit more of a serious topic than I intended this video to go on, but yeah, I felt that this was important. I want to talk about how I stopped playing Gacha and feel much better after doing so. So yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, then please stay tuned. Until then, goodbye, and enjoy the rest of this drawing.